Good afternoon and welcome to the 21st Annual Exhibit of Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technology. We've been here for some time waiting for big changes in the market. And I always hesitate to use the word big changes, but there are game-changing things happening right now. And you simply have to go to China to see what's going on. Subtly, this evolution has been approaching us. We talked about this last year, and we're going to run through the topic again. My guests today are, I'll go in the order of seating here, Chen, who's CEO of Palcan, and next to him is Wolfgang Chen, General Manager of Palcan, and Andreas Gomez, who is Business Development at Palcan from China. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you.
I suppose the first thing that we should do is get a sort of an image of the company. So, John, your CEO, could you tell us a little bit about Palcan?
Hi, yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for this opportunity for us to introduce Palcan. We had a similar interview last year, and we come here to do a second interview, and we want to tell you what is the last year we did in China. But firstly, I want briefly to introduce Palcan. Palcan started the business in 1998 in Vancouver. We developed various technology from stack and storage, electrolyzer. We did almost every hydrogen technology. And since 2007, we shift our main focus to China. And today we have over 100 technical people in China located in 4 different cities. And our Chinese head office in Shanghai, and we have bus deliver electric vehicle integration, extended integration in Suzhou with second largest auto company Dongfeng. We're working together with fuel cell, methanol fuel cell extended vehicle. And we also have a manufacturing facility in Changzhou. And we also have telecom business in Shijiazhuang, that's another province. And so far we are doing quite well. And we will later introduce what we are did. That's is there.
I always have to remind myself, John, that we're actually what the Germans called Landsmänner, Canadian. The fuel cell industry, some of its first commercial applications were developed in Canada, so it's you've actually got ties to North America there. It's fascinating. Andreas, you were here last with us, and when we entered into the subject, the first thing we talked about is actually pollution and the motivation towards cleaner mobile technologies. Maybe we could return to some of those points there. Pollution is driving the industry, isn't it?
Yeah. Last year we came to Hanover to introduce the Chinese Chinese story, in Palcan Chinese story. Mm-hmm. And then it became with a sad and a big problem issue that is the pollution in China. Mm-hmm. So then Palcan came to Hanover to introduce our project that we aim to reduce the emissions regarding transportation industry. So with 20 years experience in the fuel cell and hydrogen, now we are ready to avoid those emissions and then to increase the air quality and the life quality for all the citizens. So China commitment for green generating capacity, it's real, but it needs to make it true. It needs support and to choose the right project and the advanced solution. And then is when Palcan came to this situation to help. And then this year we come back to Hanover again with you here, Brian, to help us to continue telling the story of Palcan in the industry.
because things are changing quickly. But we want to stay in history for a while here. Of course, prior to marketable fuel cell hybrids and things like that, we had the batteries. I remember in the good old days, the milk trucks that deliver milk in Toronto using batteries. What is the status of battery-powered vehicles right now in China? Wolfgang?
So in China, it's unbelievable, quickly developed for electric vehicle. I think maybe only 1 or 2% from your side could understand or could imagine that in China now is boom with electric vehicle. For example, at December 2015, in 1 month there is more than 30,000 electric vehicles. So this amount is unimaginable. It's increased very quickly. But that's not all. The government plan even to have 5 million electric vehicles till 2020. It's not so far from us, but it's a big target.
5 million electrical vehicles, that's a large European market. That's just huge. Of course, that is all in reference to battery-powered vehicles. And battery-powered vehicles, it's always the issue, of course, of where do you get the electrical energy from. Some people have a light preference for the fuel cell option here. So, all right, you have battery-powered vehicles. How many hydrogen fuel cell cars are rolling around China right now?
None.
Zero. Okay. So, which sounds like, the last place we expect developments to happen quickly. There are 0 hydrogen fuel cell cars operating in China. Why? And let's ask the CEO here, John, why are fuel cell cars not currently operating in China?
We are talking about the hydrogen fuel cell car, and the main problem, I think, is the infrastructure, hydrogen fueling station. And in China, in the Olympic, they have a first fueling station installed in Beijing, and then after the Olympic, then they shut down because the problem is the safety issue, cost issue, and then in 2000, there's another open in Shanghai, then similar situation after the trade show, then they shut down, and so far no any commercial fueling station available in China to filling the these fuel cell, hydrogen fuel cell bus or car because of the cost safety issue.
And we have, of course, the same problem in Europe. You still cannot drive from the north of Europe to the south of Europe and find a refueling station for hydrogen so that you actually reach your destination. It is an issue. But it sounds like it's even more problematic right now for hydrogen. We're talking, of course, about pure hydrogen vehicles. That is, they tank hydrogen. They don't use any other source to create their hydrogen. So what are the options? We love fuel cell cars for many reasons, of course. We'll return to them again and again. They're quiet. They're very efficient. It's an effective way to use hydrocarbons. If you use hydrocarbons, it's an effective way to use electrical energy. And they really are nice. What are the options if we would like to have a fuel cell application? What are the options available, Wolfgang, right now in China? What can we do to get fuel cell cars up and running in China?
For hydrogen, how could it become to be in a vehicle? We had looked around. Palcan had already tested with nitrohydrate, with a higher pressure tank. But at the end, we found methanol is the solution. And methanol could be reformed in the vehicle. And we get hydrogen by this way.
So just to clarify for those of you who are not familiar, methanol, hydrocarbons are hydrocarbons are hydrocarbons from a Ken's perspective. Of course, it gets more complicated because diesel fuels, in order to create hydrogen from diesel fuels, you have to have different reforming technologies that operate in high temperatures, that have their own characteristics, and it gets more complicated. Plus, diesel, of course, is a pretty dirty form of hydrocarbon by comparison with methanol. Problem number 2, how difficult, how much energy does it cost and how small a unit do you need in order to create hydrogen from methanol. So you people who are also chemists, methanol is a relatively easy source to work with, isn't it, if you want to generate hydrogen?
Maybe for European to get methanol is difficult, but in China to get methanol is quite easy. You might not imagine how many cars is now related to methanol in China, because China mix methanol and gasoline together. So many people know already methanol. And methanol is a liquid. It's easy to storage and for transportation. So most people in China know methanol.
Yeah. Of course, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, there is already over 2,000 methanol filling stations running in China, and with over 5 million cars running on burned methanol engine. So this infrastructure is available in China widely.
These are always important issues. Whenever we purists, engineers think about applying fuel cells, we often just pretend that there's going to be a source of hydrogen there. If you're in certain areas in India, you discover that propane is readily available. And the specific landscape of the Chinese energy market means that there's methanol, a very common energy source. There are, just to return to this because we're clarifying here, methanol mixed with gas, or there's methanol combustion engines that operate in China. Am I right? Okay, so of course, John, operating vehicles on methanol, if it's a combustion engine, doesn't solve the pollution issue.
Yes, if you use the methanol engine to burn the methanol to produce the power, they still have emission. And the main problem in China right now is smog. So, you know, the smell and those. This is a big problem. PM 2.5. That's a big problem right now. Chinese want to improve this situation, and so burning methanol. Contaminating problem and also the efficiency problem, because the efficiency is also low. So if we use the reform hydrogen fuel cell, we can improve all these problems, solve this problem, efficiency, contamination problem.
And is this your onboard reformer technology that you've developed with partners, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we understand the issues. We understand there's methanol. I suppose next question: how many vehicles right now are operating in China with your onboard reformer technologies and fuel cells? Andreas?
Yeah. At this time we have we have two types of methanol electric vehicles in China, and both are from Palcan technology. We have Palcan have particular strength in engineering and outstanding capabilities in R&D, and then we have used to integrate our methanol fuel cell system into electric vehicles. Right now we have two types. One is a mini bus for 17 passengers, and the second is a medium-sized truck for delivery goods. All these cars are doing the test on the streets at this moment with fantastic results. The performance is so good, and now waiting for get the certification and approvals from the automobile industry in China. And then after got this certification, we go for the big numbers to go crazy with production. We are working to make this electric vehicle with a big company, the second largest automobile company in China, that is Dongfeng. And together with Dongfeng, we develop the industry to the road. Yeah.
The two vehicle types, delivery truck vehicles on the one hand, and the other one was the bus. Why I find it's important to listen carefully about the type of vehicles we're mentioning here is simply that often Europe faces in very similar ways, very similar problems we already have in the urban centers of Europe, and I'm talking about, of course, Berlin, where I live, many smog alarm events. Now, what I'm saying is the levels of fine particle dust, Feinstaub, and the levels of ozone and other gases in urban centers are beyond the European limits. That is, the government should say, and increasingly they're deciding they may have to say, you cannot drive a diesel-fueled bus in the city. You cannot drive a diesel-fueled delivery vehicle. So when you mention those types of vehicles, there's a huge market here. And there's an urban dynamic, literally integrating these technologies. It grows in those smog, congested areas of cities. I'm not sure if it's similar, but I suppose I could turn the question around and say, Wolfgang, you know, 2 vehicles is not going to be the game changer here. We have to talk about numbers. How fast is China going to move forward? They have like serious issues with pollution as well. I would say they're even more serious than many urban centers, and really these vehicles solve problems. But how fast can you move forward with getting them on the road?
So in this case, I would like to use the data from Dongfeng, because Dongfeng is the second largest car manufacturer in China and the largest manufacturer for delivery truck in China. They are dominated #1 for delivery truck. The number for 2014, they have made several hundreds of electrical delivery truck. And the number for 2014 is already more than 8,000. So now they have in Shiyan, the big new factory planned for a yearly build around 200,000 units. So they want to make the biggest one in China. And they had to talk to us. Whatever, how much you could make the system, we could take it. So you could imagine out how China could grow and how quick the car manufacturer could increase their capacity. So I would like to see in this year, 2016, we might start with hundreds of delivery cars. And the next year, 2017, the target is 10,000.
Okay, so there's one manufacturer's perspective on that with solid numbers. As in Europe, we do need government support. That is, there is legislation. Right now they're discussing in Germany how much of a premium should exist if you buy an electric car. It is very important to know that initiating technologies, there are some costs involved, but there's some environmental factors, and there's always this balance. One of the interesting motivating features is simply government policy. And here, of course, it would be important to know how the government is going to aid the integration of fuel cells into the transportation sector. So, John, 2 vehicles isn't going to change the environment. We need substantial numbers. There has to be some government support. There has to be laws, as there may be in Europe soon. Northern European countries saying no more diesel vehicles as of 2020 or 2025, things like that. Is the Chinese government moving actively to push this forward?
Yes. I think that I can tell you the number here. And bus and the delivery vehicle is government heavily subsidized the vehicle for electric. And particularly in the large city, like delivery vehicle, all the engine or gasoline powered, they cannot go into the city. Shanghai, Beijing, or Shenzhen all already policy prohibit those vehicles and must be electric. And bus is similar because those is all by regulation by government. And there are 2 aspects can be supported by government. Then first is the vehicle. they subsidize the manufacturing. Each vehicle, they have a very detailed category, like a bus and delivery vehicle, and what kind of lines of bus can get how much subsidized. The first is from support the manufacturer. Second is support the running, the people that run the bus or run the vehicle. They have operation subsidized. So there are two subsidized give the support. And the number is so huge. And like a bus, if you get the central government support and from the local province support, with a bus is 1 million Chinese yuan for a bus. So it's almost cover all the cost. And those is our publicity. You can look at in the internet to find those numbers.
I should add, of course, if there's questions from the audience, raise your hand and we'll try to address them. We're talking about buses and delivery vehicles, and I always like to return to this urban phenomena question here. Urban centers rely on public transportation, of course, delivery vehicles, it's necessary for the infrastructure. So there's another advantage if you want to launch these technologies, namely, this would be the European problem, fueling stations become more affordable if you have a local fleet of buses. What, on the level of urban supply, you're using a different fuel, of course, not hydrogen, but methanol. Is the infrastructure already in place to start operating bus systems and delivery vehicles on a large scale? I don't know who wanted to say, Wolfgang, Andreas?
So the fuel station with pure hydrogen is almost impossible in the city. John had explained the reason. But for the gasoline and the methanol mixed station, this is newly supported at October 13, 2015. The Ministry of Industry in China had announced a policy that they encourage the gas station operator to have the mixed station. That means in the future, it might be methanol, it might be gas in CNG and in LNG, or gasoline and diesel. So you might see in China in the future, there is different kinds of fueling type.
And of course, the advantage to methanol with an onboard reformer, hydrogen has a low energy density. Methanol, it rather solves that problem, doesn't it, John? If you have, instead of hydrogen compressed, which is a loss of energy efficiency, if you use methanol, you get ranges.
Yes. And I think the methanol is why is a reasonable choice compared to the hydrogen fueling station is because the methanol power density, energy density is so high. A fueling station, you can fuel 100 or a couple hundred a car a day, but a fueling station of hydrogen, you can only fuel a couple, 10 or 20 or 50, that's maximum, because of the energy density is so low. And also, in cost of view, methanol compared to hydrogen, the methanol fuel is so cheap or so low cost compared to hydrogen.
Do we have any questions from the audience? No?
Sorry, is safety a concern for fuel cells? Like, how do you tackle it right now, like with application in China?
Very good question. I would like to take a sample as the methanol mixed with water like this. If I give you a lighter, it might be not so easy for you to ignite it. The power density, the energy density of methanol is 5.4 kilowatts hour per kilogram. So when methanol mixed with water, you could not ignite even with cigarette, so it's quite safe. for even it's spent, it will burn out in very short time. When the percentage is lower than 40%, then it's safe again.
Yeah. So I think in simple word is methanol fuel is safer than gasoline, so much safer than hydrogen. That's is the choice.
Hi, do you have any information on the cost of methanol in China? Because you're saying it's cheap, but do you actually have the cost?
You get that?
Yeah, I would like to say in the factors, I try to transfer it to euro. You know, in gas station, now 1 liter gasoline is around 5.7 or 5.2 RMB. It's around 80 to 90 euro cent. And the methanol price per liter is then only around 2 RMB. That's around 32 euro cent. So it's around less than 50% price to gasoline. But the gasoline has higher power density, energy density. The methanol reformer and the hydrogen stack fuel cell has higher efficiency. So it's almost 1 liter methanol has the same range distance like 1 liter of gasoline.
So the running cost is only half of the gasoline.
You can, of course, drive a conventional combustion engine on methanol, but the interesting thing there is, from an engineer's perspective, what a waste, eh, John? What a waste to use methanol without a reformer and a fuel cell means you simply use more liters per kilometer to drive your bus.
Yeah. So I think that if our this kind of vehicle, and the first is people don't change any habit, just as a normal fueling station to 2 minutes, 3 minutes fill up your tank, but the tank is not the gasoline, is the methanol and the water mixture. We have 60-40% of water mixture, and the result is only water and the CO2, and the CO2 also is reduced quite a lot compared to the conventional gasoline engine, and no other contaminant come out. This is the net result. You save money, you protect the environment. That is the net result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other questions from the audience?
Mr. Chen, are you saying there is no future of hydrogen cars in China at all? Is there something going on or some push?
Okay, let me say.
Because the whole world is looking at hydrogen.
Okay. First, we said that we are the hydrogen car. We are actually using the hydrogen. We just install a reformer, change the methanol to the hydrogen, and the rest is same. We are use the hydrogen fuel cell. So we have added onboard the reformer. Just you understand that the car is you need the high pressure bottle with hydrogen, and we use the methanol. But the principle is we still use the hydrogen onboard reformer. So you produce hydrogen with something, but we are use energy as a carrier of hydrogen on board. Mm-hmm. So the path is same. Just don't different platform. How you can treat it as a high pressure bottle as a carrier of hydrogen. We are carrying the methanol as a hydrogen, similar. We're not deny the hydrogen fuel cell.
Mr. Chen, the development of hydrogen has moved tremendously for the last 2 years. And the thing is that why do you still continue to use the reforming process when the hydrogen you produce is not that pure for your fuel cell? I think why don't you look at other alternatives where you can produce straight, clean hydrogen? Thank you.
Okay. Yes, this is the way different look at where your hydrogen come from. So currently in all the world, most of hydrogen still come from the fossil fuel, not pure like electrolyzer or solar. And the methanol is same thing. Methanol can also produced by solar power and also renewable. So it's similar. So just a different energy carrier, hydrogen or methanol. There's a parallel way right now going on. It's not. I cannot hear.
Basically, methanol still has carbon footprint.
Yes.
So why don't you get other hydrolysis where you get it from water,
No. Okay,
and you can supply? There's almost zero carbon footprint if you produce direct from clean green energy.
Okay. Methanol, when you produce methanol, you recover the carbon, CO2. And with hydrogen plus CO2 produce methanol. This is already a technology purchased, I think, last year by JD, Li Shufu. They purchased this technology. So produce methanol by renewable. So if you look at this way, methanol is a carbon neutral fuel. No any carbon.
This is for me a fascinating debate, and it's important. It's important, but I always have to remind people in this industry, we all know that engineers are purists. You know, the guys with the thick glasses who sit in their dungeons and produce technology that is pristine and clear, and it's visionary, and we are all committed to hydrogen and the hydrogen economy in the future. The problem is we have an existing infrastructure and an economy that needs energy. So let me take the German example. We have a source of high-octane natural gas, and we cannot turn that off overnight. What we can do, though, is use it 30 to even 50% more effectively and attach that to a fuel cell. This already reduces the emissions by 30 to 50%. This is a game changer in climate change, ladies and gentlemen. The purists who say, why don't you go straight to hydrogen, are slowing us down because we're not going to manufacture affordable fuel cells that save us money unless we have an interim market. We need to launch this. They are too expensive unless they are manufactured in larger numbers.
Yes.
So I have to break what they say, eine Lanze brechen auf Deutsch. I have to come to defense of this concept because you cannot operate, Europeans did this in Asian countries for a long time, you cannot operate in ignorance of the existing energy supply. So that would be this first statement. The second thing is, every time you use an onboard reformer, you're using a technology that can then instantly use hydrogen when it's available. When it's going to become available is a secondary issue. It may happen quickly because we have wind power in the north of Germany. It may happen at a different speed in China. But boy, do we ever need these vehicles in Europe. Every urban center is suffering from the same disease, and that is pollution. By the way, even the issue of how to set up an infrastructure for hydrogen is interesting. We were talking about fueling stations. Someone asked the question, is hydrogen dangerous? Well, we don't have these fueling stations up, but I can tell you one thing. The most dangerous fueling station operating in Europe right now, it's typical gas and diesel. There are statistics that will show that the risk to your health living next door to a conventional diesel and gas station, the risks are substantial. Oh, what about methanol? The risks to your health living next to a methanol gas station? No. Okay, so it's like living next to a brewery. It's a different calculation. So I have to come to defense of this because it's very important, and it is a transitional technology. And we're talking about large numbers too. When we talk about government support, the government in China has done something I wish every government in Europe would do, is put their foot down and say, we want to have how many buses operating? What are the statistics? What do they want to have? Their future prognosis.
In China, there is statistic. There are more than 500,000 buses in the city. In Beijing, along in Beijing, it's more than 24,000 buses. So daily, people ran with buses in Peking, and the central government had decided to change the situation, to change the diesel bus to LNG bus and to electricity bus, and the target is to 2020. More than 90% buses should be new energy bus, and this year, in 2016, they decided to buy 2,600 electrical buses. So this is a number, more than 2,000 units for one city in Peking.
Yeah, and this, of course, is the size of the European and North American market combined. The numbers are just phenomenal and very impressive. We don't want to forget the message, though, which is, why are you here?
Okay, I think that I will first say that we need cooperation because we have a big opportunity ahead of us, and Palcan cannot do alone for this business. And we're working with second largest auto company, and they give us a tremendous number. If I tell you, maybe you don't believe it, but we already have 50,000 units ordered, and we cannot do it. And so we need a partner, and working with partner to fill for this job. And you maybe say,
yeah, and most important, ladies and gentlemen, most important for us is we lead people. We lead the talent, we lead engineers, we lead the partners who could help us, making together to have cleaner technology to help us realize this great project.
Yes, as John and Chen said, we need people with expertise in the fuel cell electric vehicle industry, and it's the reason it's like China, for example, President of China, Xi Jinping, promised to reduce the emission 60 to 65% by the level of 2005. So it's a lot of job have to be done. And then Palcan, we are ready to provide technology and do what we do best, is to green power for green earth. But we need help for people that have something to offer to the industry.
So it's a plea for cooperation, which is so typical in our industry. When you look out here and you see the various manufacturers of stacks, for instance, you can rarely get them to speak between the lines. Yeah, we cooperate with them, we use their stacks, they provide our bipolar plates. It's all cooperative, okay? This is a huge cooperative environment here. People share expertise. Even the automobile industry is helping us to do the bipolar plates. It's all cooperative. What we really need is international cooperation, and I think in a twofold way. I mean, you guys have really support from the government. We need that here. Yes. We also need to see how the integration of these vehicles transpires, to see how successful it is. And we need, of course, the customers. Any fuel cell stack manufacturer is happy with an order of 10 or 100 fuel cell stacks these days. We need to get up to the hundreds of thousands, and for that, of course, we need our friends from China here.
Yes.
Anything to add, John?
I think that for us is we are really need cooperation for a company like us, because the ramp up so quickly, and not like traditional North American or European style, and Chinese style is so quick, and we need to cooperation, and everyone and technology expertise we welcome.
Yeah. It's always a pleasure to talk to you three gentlemen. I hope you'll be back next year.
Yes.
And I hope we'll be envying your position. You'll come to tell us how many hundreds of thousands of vehicles are in the planning and how many thousands are up and operating. That's my hope for next year. Coming back next year?
Yes. And I could also tell you about our plan, because just before we come to Hanover, our delivery truck with methanol had run 1,200 kilometers from East China to Central China. So further plan is next year, or within this year, we try to find a time point to drive from Asia to Europe with our methanol vehicle.
And of course, fueling's going to be a lot easier because it doesn't need a pure hydrogen tank station. Some things get solved on the route. Okay, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I've been talking to people from Palcan, from China. John Chen, who's CEO, of
Thank
course. Wolfgang Shen, who's general manager, and Andres Gomez,
Thank you, brother.
the cool guy at the end who does business development. Yeah, pleasure talking to you. See you here next year.
Yeah, see you next year.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you very much also for your attention. Up next on stage, we'll be talking to Emery De Castro, who's from Advent Technologies, and we'll be talking about hydrogen purification with a high temperature PEMP